What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. It's week 16 of the fantasy football season, championship semifinals here today. Hopefully, you guys are prepared, ready to go. Hopefully, you've been able to make most of your start-sit decisions. If not, that is what we're here for today. Make sure you drop those start-sit decisions in the chat. I'm happy to answer those for you as they come in here this morning. Now, what I want to do is I want to hop right into this. I see we had Caleb in here before the show even started. He said, I need the best YouTuber's opinion, Pollard or Spears in a PPR league, and Neighbors or JSN in a full PPR. So, look, the way that I'm going to be looking at this Tony Pollard and the way that I'm looking at this Tajay Spears situation here this week is if the Tennessee Titans say that Tony Pollard is good to go, I'm trusting he's good to go. Look, last week he didn't really practice too much. He came in, he played, he did okay. This week, obviously didn't practice much. They're saying he's good to go. He's going to play. I think when it comes to Pollard and Spears, I'm still going to be playing Pollard over Spears this week. I'm looking at Pollard more as a low-end RB2. Spears is probably going to be worked in, but it's all going to come down to the touchdowns, and I think Pollard is more of the goal line back. I think he's the guy that they're going to use there more often. So, yeah, I'm going to play Pollard over Spears here this week in a PPR. Also, when it comes to Neighbors versus JSN, I'm playing Malik Neighbors over JSN this week. We've heard some rumblings of some potential rain in Seattle this week. I'm hearing that it may not be as bad as we potentially thought it would be at first. However, still, any type of rain is not great. Neighbors is higher in my rankings this week. I have Neighbors as a top 10 guy. I'm going to be playing Neighbors in the full PPR. So Neighbors and Pollard are going to be the two players, the running back and the wide receiver that I'm going to be playing in this situation. Johnny, Mason Rudolph or AOC. I know it's ugly, especially for championship matchup week 1 of 2. 6-point passing touchdowns and 0.25 points per carry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of ugly. When I'm looking at these two matchups, you get Aiden O'Connell versus Jacksonville Jaguars, which is obviously a very positive matchup for him. When you look at Jacksonville, they're currently dead last against the quarterback position, giving up 22.6 fantasy points per game. Now, when you're looking at a guy like Mason Rudolph, he gets Indianapolis. It's a little bit of a tougher matchup. I think I'm going to go with Aiden O'Connell. The matchup is just a little bit better. It's ugly, but he has the potential to go throw a couple touchdowns. I also think that it is it's probably a little bit of a safer floor play with Aiden O'Connell as well. So give me Aiden O'Connell in this matchup. It's ugly, but yeah, that's the play that I'm going with. Xavier says start 2, Metcalf, Reed, Downs, need some high upside. Okay, well, if you need upside, the two upside plays in this for me are Metcalf and Reed. Now, we talked about a little bit of rain. Metcalf, he's probably going to be a big play guy. Reed's a big play guy as well. Those are the two upsides. If you need the upside, those are the two plays for me. Xavier says, start 1, Tracy, Madison, or Kendra. I'm going to be going with Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy would be my play here. Madison, I can't really trust him at the moment. And Kendra Miller, it's still TBD what he's going to look like, the workload's going to look like. Tracy's the safest play, and I think he has the highest ceiling of all of these guys as well. Maybe second highest ceiling would be Kendra Miller, but give me Tyrone Tracy. Fritz, what's good, Andrew? Merry Christmas. Struggling with my flex. Merry Christmas to you as well, Fritz. What is this flex decision here? It says full PPR, Metcalf, Walker, or Ford. Weather versus terrible offense. Thoughts? Yeah, I think for me in this type of decision, I'm going to be going with Kenneth Walker. The rain is potentially going to create more running opportunities for Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is going to get a pretty decent workload, pretty close to a full workload, to be honest. Should have some touchdown upside in this game as well. He would be my best play of all of these guys in the flex. So give me Kenneth Walker here in this game against the Vikings. Dubridge says pick 2 for my last 2 flex spots. You got JSN versus Minnesota, JT versus Tennessee, James Cook versus New England, or T. Higgins versus Cleveland. Okay. I'm going to be playing T. Higgins and James Cook here. T. Higgins versus Cleveland, that's a really good matchup for him. Cleveland hasn't been great against the wide receiver position. Also, potential that they go up and run the score up on these guys. James Cook versus New England, I think that there's a lot of running opportunities in this game. He could potentially get into the end zone as well. JSN versus Minnesota, I like the matchup. The thing is, like we said, there could be a little bit of rain, which could mean there's less passing opportunities. Maybe they lean on the run a little bit more there in that matchup. And then JT versus Tennessee, it's a good matchup. I just think that there's probably going to be less need for Jonathan Taylor. I look at his last couple of weeks. He's getting in full PPR, he's getting 8 points, 12 points, Could have had a bigger week last week if he didn't drop the football going into the end zone. But he's a guy that he's getting the volume. He's just not getting any type of PPR upside. And if he doesn't find the end zone, you're not happy with what he does throughout the week. So I think T. Higgins and James Cook are the two plays for me here. Derek says Thielen or Laporta in my flex. It is tight end premium. I'm still going to go with Adam Thielen. Look, Adam Thielen is going to be a PPR monster. I'm assuming this is a full PPR, especially if you're playing in a premium. Most leagues that have premium, they play full PPR. So I'm going to go with Adam Thielen here. He has a pretty decent matchup. I think he's going to get a lot of the receiving targets here, and he's going to have a pretty good day. Blizzard says, what's up? Would you start Jennings or Strange in PPR plus 0.5 tight end premium? Thanks. Yeah, this is a tough one, man. I've had a lot of people ask me about Strange this week. Another guy that I actually play in a league with was asking me Thielen versus Strange. I think my answer is going to remain the same, especially because this is a tight end premium. I'm going with Brenton Strange with Evan Engram out of the lineup, with the matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. There's a lot of things on the side of positivity for Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange is probably going to see 10 plus targets this week, just like he did last week. In a tight end premium where you're getting the extra point or a half point per reception, I think he's going to be worth it for you here in this week's matchup. So give me Brenton Strange over Juwan Jennings this week. And yeah, seems scary, seems risky, but I'm still doing it. Brenton Strange. All right, what else do we got, folks? If you have any more questions, throw them in the chat, please, and we'll keep answering those questions today. Now, I will tell you, I had a start sit decision. There you go, of my own this morning that I was trying to decide between Jonathan Taylor, Brian Thomas Jr., full PPR league. I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. is the play that I'm going in my start sit decision there. Another start sit decision that I had to make was a 6-point passing touchdown league. It was Sam Darnold versus Jared Goff. And I'm going Jared Goff there. I think the weather is going to be the determining factor in that one for me. But it's definitely going to be Jared Goff. Even though the matchup is tougher for Jared this week, going to lean there just because, yeah, that weather in Minnesota isn't, or the weather in Seattle isn't going to be great. I want to remind everybody at home, if you have not done it before and you want to play on Underdog, you want to support the show, we do have a code over there. You see this code right here, League FFB. If you sign up using that code League FFB, they will give you a free pick'em entry. It is going to be for Sunday Night Football tonight. They will what that is basically a freebie in your pick'em play. So if you put it in there, it's basically a free square. So it helps you win some more money. They also give you a deposit up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So make sure you sign up. They give you some free money, help you win some more money, and you get to support the show as well. So if you want to do that, code League FFB, or there's a link in the description as well. You can't miss it. There's a red little alarm next to it, so you can't miss it as all. What else we got here? Breece Hall, JSN, Brian Thomas, choose 2. Okay, so Brian Thomas is going to be in the lineup for me. It's going to be between JSN and Breece Hall. When I'm looking at these two guys in my flex rankings, and I'm assuming that this is going to be a full PPR league as well. You didn't necessarily specify, but I'm assuming it's full PPR. In those flex rankings, I do have, where do I have him? Breece Hall is my 30th overall player in flex rankings. JSN is my 32nd. So I guess we're going to be going with Brian Thomas Jr. and Breece Hall in these this start sit question right here. So give me those two guys. Mr. Magic says need Darnold, Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones to eat today. So let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it because I've kind of pulled some of these guys down my rankings just based on that light weather that we're hearing, maybe some wet conditions, some slippery conditions. So for me, when I'm looking at that 4-point passing touchdown, I do have Sam Darnold. It's my QB10 on the week. So I have him as QB10 overall. Still should be a good option, a low-end QB1 option for me this week. When I'm looking at Aaron Jones this week, Aaron Jones is currently sitting as my running back. Got him as running back. What is that? 17 on the week. So could be a matchup for him where he's all right. And then Hawkinson, I have TJ Hawkinson as my tight end where are we? 8. So you kind of got low end options for all of those guys. Low end 2, running back 2 for Aaron Jones, kind of a low end tight end 1 for TJ Hawkinson, and low end QB1 for Sam Darnold. That's how I'm viewing all these guys today, Mr. Magic. He says, can Spears have a day again too? Um, maybe not. It's going to come down to touchdowns. If you get him in the end zone, you're probably going to like the day that it gives you. If not, you're looking at a guy who's potentially going to not do much for your fantasy football team. But with Tony Pollard in the lineup this week, I'm probably steering away from Tajay Spears where I have him and trying to go with better options than that. I just don't really trust him with Pollard in the lineup, and it's tough to trust Pollard too. But I'm more comfortable playing Pollard over Spears this week. Fire Sports Card says Tyreek or Brees in the flex. I'd rather play Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has a pretty solid matchup this week. I think he's a guy that I'd just rather get into the lineup right now, especially with Jalen Waddle as doubtful. I don't think he's actually expected to play in this one. I just want to confirm that, but I want to say that he was doubtful and not expected to play. So, yeah, definitely going to be going with Tyreek Hill. I still have Tyreek Hill as a top 12 wide receiver. I can't say the same thing as a top 12 option for Brees Hall. All right. Fire Sports Card says Richardson or Rush in Superflex. Okay. I mean, I like the matchup for Cooper Rush this week. Cooper Rush has a really good matchup. I actually have him as a decent play in my rankings. He is going to be sitting right now as my QB. Where are we at with Cooper Rush? I know I had him. I didn't just pass him, did I? I have him as QB 20. So in a super flex, you're looking at a guy who's a low end QB 2. You can play him. Tampa Bay, it's a good matchup. They're 31st against the quarterback position, 21.9 fantasy points allowed per game from them. I think you're hoping that he gets a couple touchdowns, 2 or 3 of them, hopefully at the most. And the 4-point passing touchdown probably is a little bit less valuable because he's just not running the football at all. Now, in comparison to a guy like Anthony Richardson's a top 12 guy in my rankings this week. Got Anthony Richardson against the Tennessee Titans, 17.7 fantasy points allowed per game, but the rushing upside and the 4-point passing touchdown is going to be the difference. I would play Anthony Richardson probably over guys like Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, even a guy like Caleb Williams, Aaron Rodgers. I would play him over all of those guys here this week. I just think he has a better matchup, and I think he has more upside this week. So I definitely would be playing him over a guy like Cooper Rush for certain in my leagues. Fritz says full PPR. Choose one: Patrick Taylor or Kenneth Walker. I'm going Kenneth Walker, man. I just want to reiterate, we talked about it on Friday's Q&A, but Patrick Taylor, he still makes me a little bit nervous. I know that he's probably next man up and he could get a pretty decent workload. When I'm ranking him out in my rankings this week, I currently have him as my running back 28. He's my running back 28 in my rankings this week, and that's because we're down to guys, on this 49ers running back room that didn't start the year here. They were maybe practice squad guys, or they were guys like Taylor and Izzy Abanikanda and some of these other guys that ended up just getting added to the roster as these injuries started piling up. It's really none of these guys were in the plan to get really any reps at all to start the year. So it's a little bit nerve wracking with these guys. There's no ties to Shanahan for any of them. I still think we've seen, historically, when somebody goes down for the 49ers, Shanahan does like to give the entire workload to somebody. So we'll see what happens with Patrick Taylor. When it comes to him and Kenneth Walker, I would just much rather play Kenneth Walker. I know what I'm getting out of Kenneth Walker, and I think he has some touchdown upside and some things like that as well, especially like we said, this game. Don't want to keep repeating myself, but a little bit of rain potentially. So maybe there's less passing, more running. More running the football means maybe some more opportunities for Kenneth Walker. I know he's been banged up, but he's in it. He's in the lineup for me, and I'd be playing him more as like a low end to mid-tier running back too, whereas Patrick Taylor, to me, he's like a RB3 flex type of option. Fire Sports Cards says, thanks, bro, and I appreciate you, Fire Sports Cards. Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking some questions. Happy to help you. All right, what else we got here today, folks? Anything else? And I apologize today, first and foremost, if I one, look tired, two, sound tired. The answer is because I am. Me and the family, you guys know I'm out on vacation. This is not typically the setup. The home studio is much different than this one, but me and the family last night, my brothers and I, we all went out to this place on the Las Vegas Strip and ended up doing like this sandbox VR thing. There's like Squid Games, Call of Duty Zombies, some other stuff. We did this like VR room where you go in, you put the stuff on, you run around. Like we were out there pretty late, doing some stuff out there on the strip, just hanging out. And yeah, got home late. And those these morning games hit a lot earlier on the West Coast than they do on the East Coast. So yeah, everything's catching up, man. So if I look tired, I sound tired, I am. So I appreciate you guys being here regardless. Lita says morning, starting Pollard, need a second running back. Tracy, Swift, Ford, ETN, Spears. Okay, so let's look at the running backs. So for me, just initial gut is going to be DeAndre Swift. I have DeAndre Swift currently as actually, you know what? It's going to be Pollard as your starting running back, and then it's going to be between Swift and Ford. So I'm looking at Ford's matchup. Ford's matchup got Cincinnati. They're currently ranked 18th. DeAndre Swift has Detroit. They're currently ranked 9th. So I'm looking at them. Ford is 18 in my rankings. Swift is 21. I'm going to go with Swift here or Ford here. Pollard and Ford. Those are my two options. Sorry, I just rambled and I just mixed up their names 100 times. So hopefully that was easy to follow, Lita. Ford, Pollard. Edward, Njoku or Hawkinson, PPR. Good question. I'm probably not going to be trusting Dorian Thompson-Robinson too much today. I think I'd rather go Hawkinson than Njoku. Obviously, they're both, middle tier tight ends, I think, this week. When I'm looking at these two guys in my rankings, I think I already just talked about it. TJ Hawkinson is my tight end 8 in PBR. When I'm looking at where I got David Njoku, he's sitting as my tight end. Where do I got him? I got him as tight end 18. I'm not super confident in him. I got him around the Kyle Pitts range, and that's mainly just because of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Element, Rico, Brian Thomas, or Judy in the flex. I would go Brian Thomas over all of these guys. I'd play Brian Thomas this week. Element says, saw a video of Fat Joe Mixon, and the title was Joe Mixon with my fantasy season on the line. I have Mixon starting. I saw something like that too. It was Joe Mixon with my fantasy season on the line. It was a picture of Eddie Lacy. So same type of thing. It sucks, man, because I have him in a couple places. Last week wasn't a big game. This week wasn't a big game. The good news is that I was playing against the league where I have Joe Mixon. I was playing against Nico Collins, who didn't have the greatest game either. He had a better game than Joe Mixon, but it still wasn't like a big game for Nico Collins, so it was fine. Element says Njoku is probably going to get traded, maybe in the offseason. I mean, obviously, we're past the trade deadline right now, so we'll see what happens. But I think this Browns team is going to have to blow it up, man. I'm hearing rumors already of potentially maybe, what's his name? Kirk Cousins reuniting with Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland next year as a starting QB, which would be, I don't even know what to think about that. If Kirk Cousins and Deshaun Watson, I mean, we're talking about the island of misfit toys at this point. All right. Element says, man, I feel so bad for Dell. Yeah, it's not great. Not great at all. I went to go grab my phone right here, actually. Last I saw for Tank Dell, it was potentially multi-ligament. We haven't had a lot of information yet. Potentially dislocated knee and probably looking at surgery for artery damage, maybe nerve damage, potentially in the knee. If that is the case, we're looking at a potentially pretty long-term injury, something that could cost him all of 2025. You got to feel bad, man. CJ Stroud, you saw how like distraught he was on the sideline and things like that. I don't know. My mind instantly went, move wise, what are they going to end up doing? Because I can't imagine they're going to be relying on Dell much next year. Nico Collins got his extension. You're going to have him as the number one. Right now, Stephon Diggs is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Remember, they chopped the remaining years off of his contract this offseason, so he only had basically a 1-year deal. I'm going to assume that they're going to pay Stephon Diggs to come back and be the number 2 wide receiver, but he's coming off of a torn ACL as well. Maybe this is a team that's going to be a sneaky, wide receiver destination in the draft. Maybe they're going to get a Luther Burden in the first round, Emeka Egbuka in the first round, maybe reunite Emeka Egbuka with CJ Stroud. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, man. But yeah, lots of not a lot of great things happening there in Houston right now. Is Packers defense a good play today? I think they are. When I look at my defenses this week, they're a defense that I have as my number 1 defense. Spencer Rattler tends to throw some turnovers. I think he's definitely going to be a guy that I'd be targeting. So the Packers defense, I'm definitely playing. Clement says, PPR flex 1, Kupp, Jennings, or Johnny Smith. I have Bowers at tight end currently. I'm going to play Cooper Kupp. Full PPR rankings, I'm going to play him. I think the only other argument that I would potentially be looking at is Johnny Smith if it was a tight end premium. But if it's not a tight end premium, I probably don't lean that way. I still have Kupp this week as a guy that we can rely on as a mid to high tier wide receiver 2. The matchup against the Jets isn't spectacular, but also at the same time, Sauce Gardner hasn't been as good over the last couple of weeks. Also, I expect Sauce to guard Puka more than I expect him to guard Cooper Kupp. I have Cooper Kupp kind of as the same play as a guy like bdge, Lad McConkey, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. He's kind of that type of range of wide receiver for me. So I would go with Cooper Kupp unless it's a tight end premium. If it's tight end premium, I think I'd go Johnny Smith. Element says, and also my boy Aubrey or Tyler Bass. I'd go Brandon Aubrey. When I'm looking at these two guys in my rankings, as if I do many kicker rankings at all, Brandon Aubrey, he is my number 1 guy on the week. But like I said, take that with a grain of salt because my kicker rankings, we just don't put too much thought into them. I just really look at game script and I look at potential points scored in those games. Brandon Aubrey, though, he's my number 1 guy this week. I'd be playing Brandon Aubrey. All right, what else we got, folks? I want to answer a few more of your questions. We'll probably go about 30 minutes today, so will give me time to finish setting some of these lineups. And it does seem like it's just a little bit slower today, but I understand most people at this point, you're either advancing towards going to a championship or you've been eliminated. So I get it. All right. C-Dog says Terry, DK, Jennings, pick 2 of them. So let's just talk about all of these guys in my rankings at the moment. When I look at Terry McLaurin, I think he's the highest in my rankings, if I'm not mistaken. He is. Terry McLaurin's my wide receiver 19 this week. Very tough matchup against Philly. Still can play him, though. He's wide receiver 19. Juwan Jennings is wide receiver 22. And then I got DK Metcalf as wide receiver 29. So of these options, you would go Terry McLaurin and Juwan Jennings. The only reason why I asked this is because Bills play New England and Josh Allen is fighting for MVP. I would potentially, feel the same way, but I don't think we need to overthink it too much, especially when it comes to kickers. But Brandon Aubrey, he's as safe as it comes to the kicker position. I'd probably just play him still. Hunter, my guy, says Terry or Tyreek. It's going to be Tyreek for me. Tyreek Hill is the wide receiver 12 in my rankings. Terry McLaurin's the wide receiver 19. Give me Tyreek Hill. I think I was muted there. Now I'm not. Fat Randy. Jerry Jeudy, Juwan Jennings, or Brian Robinson. I would be going with Juwan Jennings. When I look at Jerry Jeudy in my rankings this week, I have him much lower than we've had him in other weeks. He's wide receiver 34. That's because of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'm going Brian Robinson Jr. and Juwan Jennings this week. I can't trust Jerry Jeudy with DTR at QB. Element says, I do think Aubrey is the best kicker in the league. Probably. And he said, I'm surprised Terry is that low. I made a good trade for him. Got a 73% win percentage. You love to see those projections. They don't mean too much, but you do love to see them at the beginning. They make you feel good. Terry McLaurin, he's that low. It's just because Philly right now, they're number 1 against the wide receiver position, only giving up 23 fantasy points per game. When you look at Terry McLaurin's last matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I don't want to read too much into it, but when you look at his last matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, He finishes the wide receiver 89 on the week. He had 2 targets for 1 yard. 2 targets and 1 reception for 10 yards. That's what he finished the day as. Now, I know he's had a big stretch of games here where he's been pretty much a top 24 wide receiver every single week since week 2, or I guess since week 3. Week 2 was his last time that he didn't do it, outside of that one Philly game. But Philly's defense has been so good. It makes me very nervous about him this week. He's not necessarily a volume guy either. He's still only seeing like 5, 6, 7 targets on a week, catching anywhere between 2 to 5 footballs, just getting into the end zone. If he gets into the end zone this week, you're going to be happy with him. I just think that this matchup, we saw it already this year, be a tough one for him. We've seen Philly be tough against other wide receivers, and I don't know. I'm just a little bit nervous, tempering the expectations. Wide receiver 19 doesn't feel like it's crazy low, but it puts him in that low-end wide receiver 2 territory. God of Money says, Calvin Ridley or Swift at the flex. Please help. LOL. I would definitely go with, looking at these two guys, the matchup for the Titans against Indianapolis, and then you got Swift versus the Detroit Lions. It's tough for both of these guys, I think. I'm going to end up going Calvin Ridley, though. Calvin Ridley would be my play, especially if it's full PPR. I know you didn't specify, but Calvin Ridley in my rankings in full PPR is a top 30 wide receiver, and I'd probably play that over DeAndre Swift. All right. Jennings or Njigba. Give me Jackson Smith and Jigba this week. I would play him over Juwan Jennings. POS ranked 5 from fantasy points. Now that I think about it, maybe I should start Rico the flex since my Cowboys bias and start Brian Thomas over him. I do have Brian Thomas Jr. over Terry McLaurin in my rankings this week. I have Brian Thomas Jr. as wide receiver 15, so I would play Brian Thomas over Terry McLaurin. Hey, quick question. Which 3 should I start in my PPR league, 1 flex league? Brian Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, Bucky Irving, or Jonathan Taylor? Which 3 should I start? Well, you're definitely starting Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not overthinking that at all. When it comes to the other running backs between Breece, Bucky, Jonathan Taylor, and Brian Robinson, let's talk about where I have all those guys. Jahmyr Gibbs shouldn't be a guy that you're even considering at this point, though. He has the potential to finish as the number 1 running back on the week. In fact, I have him ranked as my number 1 on the week. Breece Hall's, I have him as a top 12 option. Bucky Irving, a top 13 option. Jonathan Taylor is my running back 16. And then who is your other guy? Brian Robinson, 23. Yeah, so just based off of my rankings, I'd be going with Gibbs, Hall, Bucky. Those would be the 3. And I would be sitting Taylor and Brian Robinson on the bench. Element says, I'm going to stick with my gut and lock the lineup. Thanks for your help. No worries, man. Appreciate you. God of Money. And once we get to the bottom, we'll wrap this up because, like I said, we're only going for about 30 minutes today. So once I get to the bottom of the questions, we'll wrap this one up. Jerry Jeudy, Deebo Samuel, or Pittman for wide receiver 2? God, none of them. No, I think the real question here is, I guess the answer to the question is probably Michael Pittman. I would play him over the other 2. I don't trust Jerry Jeudy with DTR. I don't trust Deebo Samuel as far as I can throw him, and you can't throw him very far. You're probably just going to play Michael Pittman, to be honest. Grim Reaper says 6-point passing touchdowns, Rodgers or Tua. Give me Tua. Drew says, okay, awesome. Thank you. No problem, Drew. And then MTD, last question, says, what's up, brother? Need high upside in the full PPR flex. Kyron, Bucky, Neighbors. Woo. It's between Neighbors and it's between Kyron for me. Kyron Williams, I currently have him as my running back. Where do I have him? Running back 8 on the week. And I have Neighbors as like my wide receiver 11, I think, on the week. So I'd probably lean Kyron Williams. He'd be the upside. I think he has some touchdown upside in this one as well. So give me Kyron Williams. And we had a couple more come in. So we'll just get to the bottom. Like I said, once we get to the bottom of the questions, we'll wrap this one up. But Dixon, Laporta or Hawk looking for floor. Looking for floor. It's a good question. Whether playing or the weather in Seattle plays a role in this, I think. Probably gonna go. Probably gonna go Laporta here. If you're looking for the floor, I like the matchup a little bit better, and there's no weather, so or at least it shouldn't be rain. I think I'm gonna go with Laporta for the floor. Grim full PPR. Swift, Hunter Henry, Ray Ray. That's DeAndre Swift for me, no questions asked. And then Captain Joking. Would you play Jacoby over McLaurin due to the horrible matchup? I would not play Jacoby over McLaurin. I would play some other guys over McLaurin, but Jacoby would not be one of them. Julian says, hey, guys, James Cook or Bucky, also Laporta, Stranger, and Joku. I would go Laporta at the tight end, and then I would go Bucky over James Cook. Says it is tight end plus 7.5. Okay, so that makes the question for Swift a little bit different. Yeah, it makes Hunter Henry more interesting. I still think I go DeAndre Swift though. And then Juicy Boosie. Yo, gotta beat my roomie Flex JT or Cup. I'm gonna go with Cooper Cup here. And then Frankie, Jerome Ford, or Addison full PPR. You got to play Addison still. Addison's been on a tear, man. So I'm still going with Addison. Grim says, thanks for the help. And Juicy says, full PPR, any changes? Wide receiver, Evan Lambs. Running back, Connor Kyron. Flex, Higgins, Cup. Wilson, London, JT. On the bench, worth subbing JT for Cup. For floor play, thanks, bro. I'd play London over Cup, to be honest. I wouldn't play JT. I'd play London over Cup. And yeah, that's probably what I would do. But all right, folks, I think that's it. We are at the bottom. We're at about the 30-something minute mark. So appreciate you guys for being here. As always, like I said, hopefully you guys win those Week 16 matchups. That way we can see you again here in Week 17 as we win those championships, hopefully. Got a couple teams still in the running. I know you guys do too if you're here in the chat. So thank you for being here. If this is your first time, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all those good YouTube things. They do help the channel grow, and lots of Dynasty fantasy football content coming in the summer. I guess spring and summer, all season long. So make sure you stick around. But with those things out of the way, nothing else for you guys today. So I will see you on the next one. Till then, peace out.